Welcome back to the ocean. In this video, I'm going to tell you why I love Trevally. Why of all the fish are they my favourite to hunt? In my spearfishing journey, I don't think I've ever been so captivated and outsmarted so many times by a single species of fish. Around the world, there are many different species of Trevally. However, in New Zealand, we're dealing with exclusively one, the silver Trevally, or Coromandel georgianus. These fish can be found throughout New Zealand, but are most prolific in the upper North Island. In the warmer waters, they seem to get the largest. Trevally can be found in many places, whether it's far out to sea in huge schools, or closer inshore. I find this hunting a lot more rewarding. I watch the fish mill around, waiting for a good opportunity. It is rare to see fish of this size out here. Clean, ethical shots should always be your aim when you're spearfishing. However, it's particularly important when you're spearfishing Trevally. Not only are these fish very strong for their size, but they have very soft flesh. A gut shot on a decent Trevally will never work out in your favour. Walking out of the water with a decent fish on the North Shore is an unreal feeling. It's crazy to think that these fish are just out there. It's very inspiring to me that I can go down to the beach, swim out and catch a decent fish while still being in Auckland, despite the urbanisation. I think that's pretty cool. People sometimes comment asking what I do with my keys when I go diving. I just leave them in the ignition. Nah, you're tripping if you think I'm going to answer that.
We'll head to that point. So it seems like current's coming this way, which makes sense with like incoming tide. So we'll probably go there and then see if there's anything we can follow along like up current and work our way up.
Parori can often be found in the same places you might find a Trevally. They have quite a good relationship and can often be found together. Over the right corner of my vision, I catch a glimpse of a Trevally and focus my attention that way. But the fish doesn't like it. They don't like eye contact very much, so it's important to minimize it.
Looks like there are a couple of them around here as well. But if they're scared, it means there's something bigger around.
Getting right to the bottom is very important when you're hunting Trevally. If you're mid-water and they can see your entire mass, they're not going to be interested at all. They're not a very forgiving fish when it comes to seeing you. If you blow your shot, you can wave goodbye, but the fish probably won't see it because it'll already be out of there. The presence of smaller fish can be a good indicator for Trevally, but not so much as for other species, as Trevally are mostly feeding on plankton and shellfish that they find on the bottom. It's important to consider how you're making the smaller fish feel, even if you're not targeting them, because the bigger fish pick up on that. Fish being comfortable in your presence can attract other fish and lead to opportunities. A snapper let curiosity get the better of him, though he did start to get away. I took a reasonably long shot and hit the fish high. Not a good shot, so I made sure to secure the fish as soon as possible for any chance of tearing out.
How good, bro! Fucking Woo! It's a fat snake. He's just chilling underneath the school.
Yeah, just sitting there, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Targeting snapper is something I spend basically no time on. It's not a fish that interests me as much to shoot. They get a really hard time with the fishery, especially up here in Auckland, so the only times I end up shooting them really is a happy accident while I'm targeting other fish, or by sheer coincidence. Today we're diving with Floyd, and due to his special access, we're diving a place you usually wouldn't be able to go. If you can work it out from the footage, probably don't go here. Watch out for the 50 cal. Exploring new places is one of the many great thrills of diving. Going to a new spot, seeing what's out there, seeing what's under the water and getting amongst it never gets old. If you're willing to study the charts and put the time in, you can find some incredible places. Just the other day, Alan and I were diving on some wrecks where from the surface you could see the sky tower.
Yo, big old snapper sitting off there, bro.
Big.
Diving with other people is not only great fun, but can actually benefit your diving significantly. Being able to communicate and share information about the underwater environment gives you a huge advantage. The classic snapper snoop involves going down and peering over a ledge, scanning into the blue water, trying to make out the shape of a fish. During your ascent, if you don't see anything, that doesn't mean there's nothing there. Be very careful with the way you ascend. Stay close to the rocks and avoid making too much noise.
Huh?
That's it.
So I got yours one?
In certain circumstances, using a reel does give you an advantage, especially when going over ledges where there's less chance of snagging.
Fuck! Big school of Trevs again.
Big.
Ah, not really.
Noise can scare fish, but you can also use it to attract fish. Trevally in particular seem to be very sensitive to noises, often coming in from quite a distance to check out what the commotion is. It's important to not overdo it when it comes to making noise. At this point, any fish in the area, they would have heard me, so I don't need to do it any longer. Now I need to play it cool, tuck myself away, and keep scanning, waiting for a fish to appear. I keep checking down in front of me, into the sandy gutter. They love those weed edge borders where it goes to sand. Diving inshore waters, Trevally are typically going to be very close to the bottom. Trevally do have a fair bit of predictability when it comes to actually finding where they are. However, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's a species that you can reliably target. I have long since held the opinion that Trevally is one of, if not the best eating fish in New Zealand, especially for sashimi. These fish do have a lot of blood, so it's important to bleed them, as you should be doing with any fish.
Yeah, my breath hold sucks.
Nah, that was a good 15 seconds, bro. I'm gonna try the other side of this rock.
For some fish, the quality of the meat seems to degrade relative to the size of the fish. However, it seems to be the inverse for Trevally. The larger fish always seems to be the tastiest, the most fat content, the thickest, the meatiest fillets. The same can't be said for something like snapper, however, where if you get a really big old one, it's not going to be tasty at all. Something that continues to become more and more apparent to me in spearfishing is how much of an influence the terrain has on the fish that you're going to find. And it's worth taking time to try and understand the terrain that you're dealing with. When you start to make connections between particular fish species and structural patterns in the terrain, a lot of dots start to connect and a lot of things start to make sense. Looking for the fish that you're after, the best place to start might actually be looking for the structure. This is something I was kind of missing for a long time. I love fish, but I got almost too focused on the fish. If you're just looking at the fish, you miss everything else that's happening. Good diving requires a broad attention, factoring in everything around you to make the best possible decision. And if you're just focusing on the fish, you can't do that. Diving teaches you so many things. If you watch this video and you don't dive, what are you waiting for? Planning, preparation, patience, persistence, and gratitude are just some of the things you can learn. It's also a lot of fun, and I can promise you that the sharks aren't as bad as you might imagine. As the sun's arc draws to a close, the day lingers on and darkness sets in, the underwater world seems to come to life. During a change of light period can often be a very productive time in the water. Fish are often feeding vigorously at this point. For most people, myself included, silver drummer are not usually a target species. However, they can be quite tasty. They are a great example of a fish that's eating quality degrades significantly as they get larger. The big ones do not taste good at all. The little ones, however, are actually quite nice. Not usually a target, but I was definitely keen for some fish. This was my first time getting any fish in a very long time. Prior to this, I had to stay out of the water for an extended period after contracting decompression illness while diving in Australia. It sucked, but I'm back and getting out there quite a lot at the moment. The very next day, we're back at it, diving in the upper reaches of Auckland past Whangaparaoa. The Hauraki Gulf, while very populated and many would say overfished, I would probably have to agree honestly, is an amazing place for boating. There's so many opportunities of places to go here. The abundance of islands and inshore pinnacles sticking out and peninsulas.
Alright, I'll catch you guys later.
There's so much to explore. You could spend a lifetime here and probably never see it all. Generally speaking, the water gets clearer the further you are away from Auckland Central. Having dived in some not great visibility recently, this was a nice change of pace. Great visibility can actually be somewhat detrimental to hunting fish. You find this out very quickly if you go to the tropics. When fish can see you from a further distance, it can be a lot harder to close gaps and get within shooting range. Your first dives of the day, you're trying to work out what's around, what isn't, what's happening basically. We can see here we got some jack mackerel, but how are they acting? They're quite calm. We can extrapolate from that there's probably not any kingfish in the immediate area. On the next drop, we can see that the jack mackerel are acting more agitated due to the presence of kahawai, which I'm sure would gladly eat them. Things seem to be getting better. I'm noticing a pattern of increasing fish activity. It might be worth sticking around. I'm trying to stay close to the hot zone. The jack mackerel can see me on the surface and I can see them on the bottom. I'm going to keep them interested, but not be too threatening, otherwise they're probably just going to leave. Doing the squid hand technique. I've done it a few times and it actually does manage to keep the interest of fish. Enough for this mackerel school to stick around and be comfortable enough for me to take a dive down onto them and see what else is around. Your dive plan should of course change depending on what you're expecting to see or what you're hoping to see. Getting right down to the bottom isn't always the best solution. Usually it is, but it does limit your field of view significantly and gives you a bit less mobility to turn around. When there's kingfish hunting schools of jack mackerel, you don't know what direction they're going to come from. It's very quick and you've got to be able to react. Kingfish also tend to be a lot more inquisitive than some other species. In a situation like this, it's incredibly likely they would just swim up to you, but that can't be said for some other species. If a snapper saw you like this, it's gone. I think that aside from physical ability, the main factor when it comes to success in spearfishing is processing of information, analysing everything around you, because it can tell you what else is out there. Beyond the visibility, you cannot see, but you can understand what's out there by reading the environment around you. There's so many tells, but so many that we don't understand. There's a whole world of understanding underwater, and we're only just on the surface. For all of human history, people have tried to understand the sea, but I don't think one person has ever come close. You could spend your entire life reading books about the ocean. You could spend your entire life reading articles online, and you would never be done. You could spend your entire life in the ocean and you will still see things that amaze you and captivate you and you've never seen before. An endless source of wonder, not just for you and I, but for humanity as a whole. So why have we done such a poor job at protecting this place? Why is the ecosystems that we love and cherish collapsing when they have given so much to us? Why do we let our greed ruin this place? Commercial fishing entities have done more damage to our ocean than anybody else, using unselective methods that kill fish indiscriminately and destroy the environments that they live in. Spearfishing allows you to take the power back, to selectively target fish in a humane way, connecting with the ocean. For millennia, people have been going out and catching their own fish, giving it to friends and loved ones, sharing it with their family. The commercialization of fish has allowed you to be able to go to the supermarket and get seafood from there. But what is the cost? It's the cost that you don't see as a consumer. It's all hidden, where the damage happens far out to sea and the end product is shiny fillets and plastic. Do not buy fish. Do not support these companies. If you participate in this barbarianism, you are directly contributing to the destruction of our natural environments. Go and catch your own fish. It's a lot of fun. And if you can't do it, you probably know someone who can, and they'll be more than happy to share with you. The only way to stop these corporations is if we stop buying their fish. As long as we keep giving them money, they got too much power to stop with any laws or policies, because they just buy the politicians. Every fish that I catch spearfishing, I am connected to through a visceral memory and through blood, through a life and death struggle that gives meaning to the flesh. When I catch fish, it is not simply food. It is so much more than that. Every life is significant and should never be taken on a whim. When fish are killed en masse and reduced to simply a product, so much is missed and so much is lost in the process. When a huge commercial fishing boat drags a net brimming with fish over the side, it is not weights that they are moving from the ocean. It is not numbers. but it is life. The very life of the oceans is being stripped out and sold. I love eating fish. I think it's incredibly tasty and incredibly healthy. But I would rather die than supporting commercial fishing companies.
Probably swim around for a little bit longer, try to get another one.
So, I go out and catch it myself. Every time I catch a fish this way, I consider a win. Not just for me, but for the environment. Originally, this video was meant to be about how to shoot Trevally, tips and tricks to target them successfully. But it didn't feel right. It wasn't something that I wanted to make. When I really thought about it, these fish have given me so much. It's not fair to make a hit piece on how to kill them. I want people to appreciate these fish, not to be able to go out there and shoot them all. No other fish has challenged me so much as the Trevally. No other fish has led to so much personal growth as a spearfisherman as the Trevally. No other fish has made me adapt the way that I dive more than the Trevally. And this is why I love them. Because they challenge me. I guess the topic of this video is really gratitude. Being thankful for the amazing world that we live in and the amazing creatures that we get to interact with. Sometimes the most you could learn about yourself is actually outside of yourself. Interacting with the world and seeing your reflection in it. Obsessing over Trevally has been a fun journey, and I think I might have actually learned a bit about myself through it. Why do I love hunting Trevally? I could say something simple, it's fun, they taste good, but I think the reason is something more than that. It's all the time I spend thinking about them, all the effort I put into hunting them, that makes it so worthwhile when I pull the trigger and it hits the fish. Maybe it's all in my head and these fish aren't that special, but to me, the satisfaction is unreal. I literally have had dreams about Trevally. It is the effort that makes it all worthwhile, and when combined with anticipation, what a thrill.